Well, so your lawn's a disaster. I can tell you how to recover it very easily, and I've done it twice myself with the house I just sold and my current house. The house I just sold had all the grass was tall fescue, and it just died out, just leaving a clump here or there. Well, I didn't know at the time. I started reading about grass. Tall fescue is a clumping grass, and it dies off. So you have to, I mean, it's great grass, but you have to reseed it pretty frequently. And I moved here, and everybody else's grass in the neighborhood was green, and mine was totally brown. Well, I've learned, I don't know what kind of bluegrass I got, but it takes at least 2 to 3 weeks after everybody else's greens up before mine greens up. So it was kind of thin. There's a lot of weeds. There's even more weeds now. It's getting more and more weeds. But, well, you got a lot of weed problem. You have hire somebody professional and have them use post-emergent weed killer in the fall. It kills all the live weeds. In the spring, you use a pre-emergent weed killer, and it hangs around for several months. So if you do that, don't plant new grass. So then that'll kill mostly the dandelions. The other weeds you can kill yourself pretty easy. One application, even in the middle of the summer, works, but it doesn't work with dandelions. So you got to do that post-emergent in the fall, and they suck all the stuff, all of the nutrients from the plant down into the roots for the fall, and then the leaves die and fall off. And in the spring, there's these little buds that come up on top of the root, and then out they go, and within a few weeks, they're monster weeds. So you have to use the pre-emergent stuff in the spring before they ever pop up. So you really want to take care of the dandelions professionally, and probably blackberries if you have them, because those aren't crops, they're weeds. I lived in Washington for a while I was working, and they were just weeds everywhere. I mean, you got all the free blackberries you wanted. You just had to make sure it wasn't somewhere they sprayed. So you'd go take a piece of plywood and push your way in there and get to the good ones that haven't been sprayed. Anyway, so about how to so much for weeds, about how to get a good lawn out of a bare piece of ground. Well, yeah, you can do it with bare ground too. But I learned something when I was replanting my yard in Washington. I had a bucket that I filled with dirt when I dug up a plant. Since I dug it up, dug down pretty far to put a big pile of really, really good fertile soil made from bone meal and kelp and worm castings, like the 3 best fertilizers you can possibly use, the best natural fertilizers. So I had that perfect soil in this bucket, and the stuff would stay moist for a long time, and it would really suck up water. So this stuff was moist, and I spilled a handful of seeds on them accidentally when I was bringing my seed back into the garage. This was inside the garage. It never got watered, but I noticed what happened. Before long, I saw a little grass sprout about this tall. And I took a good look at it. It hadn't been watered, it hadn't been raked in or anything. It was sitting on the top. So I looked, and out the bottom of the seed came the root, and out the top of the seed came the blade of grass. I think they were like, 3-4 inches tall. By the time I finally just pulled them up, they were still growing. They looked great. So the lesson here is that you don't have to do all that, raking up the soil and raking them in lightly and covering them with peat moss. You know, if you just if you buy Scott's seed, which is coated with this blue coating, a little blue coating that goes around the seed, so it's way bigger than the seed. Well, you spread that out in your grass, in your lawn, and when it comes up, you'll need to water it, unless you already have a lawn that's kind of thin, and then that will help to keep them shaded and moist, because their roots will hold water near the surface, and therefore you won't have to go water them twice a day. If they don't seem to be doing too well, go out and water them twice a day. But you don't need to go out there and get a roller and get all these tools, get a rake and rake everything in. All you have to do is get a spreader, a rotary spreader, throw that seed out there and let it contact the dirt. In the wild, nobody comes along and rakes the seeds into the ground. No, they just drop. And when they hit the ground and it's wet, they grow. So that's how they work. You don't need to do all that stupid stuff to plant grass. I do it all the time. When my lawn's looking a little thin, I just go buy a bag of Scott's. Well, I've even used normal seed because, the birds aren't going to see the seed down at the bottom of all my thatch and my grass. But those Scott's pellets work really good. If the birds do find them, they don't know what they are. So they don't carry them off and eat them. And they don't care for it too much either. And if they eat it, it'll give them a stomach ache. Might even kill them. But, I don't see them carrying the seed off much. I don't see any like when you clear your lawn out like they say you're supposed to, the birds just zoom in from everywhere. So you don't get that if you use that Scott's seed. And it holds moisture in really good too. So it's that easy to plant a lawn, to reseed it. You don't have to dig anything up. All you have to do is take your spreader and spread it out. And if they're laying out there on bare dirt, then put some straw over them to help keep the water in. Peat will, as the drops come down on the peat spreads out into little bitty islands of peat here and there. But with the straw, it'll stay spread out there unless it gets windy. So anyway, the straw usually works pretty good. I live in Idaho. It's straw there, and in Wyoming will probably blow away. We're in a couple of the windiest states in the U.S. You get high winds. Southern Idaho is a big, long valley carved by glaciers through the mountains all across the bottom part of the state. And the winds just roar in there from the coast. And we get horrible winds. Oh, man. The other night we had a storm. We had like 50, 60 mile an hour winds, lightning cracking all around our house. It wasn't pretty. We get a lot of that. But it keeps it beautiful here, though. So anyway, there's a couple things that you can really do to help your grass that's not doing so well. Besides throwing out some new seed, which rejuvenated a lot, and put it on heavy, not on overseed, but put it on the setting for new grass, a new lawn. You'll be growing grass everywhere. And two things. Okay, there's 3 things that will do miraculous things for your yard. There you go, 3 things. 3 things. First one is humeric acids or humic acids. Now, you can probably find those at a greenhouse. You can find it online. Amazon has it. It's black crap. It's totally black, and it stains everything black. But if you rinse it off, the black turns to a brown stain, and it stays there for good. Well, it'll wear off after a few years. So when you spray it, you want to keep it back from your house and your sidewalk and anything of value. Don't spray it any closer than like 2 feet to your walls. If you try to get it close to the walls, it'll splatter on your walls and on your siding, and there'll be brown spots all over. And they're long term. They don't go away. You can't scrub them off. So keep it away from the edges of your lawn. If you really want to, you can go around there with a little tiny sprayer or something. The pump-up sprayers, which ways? Yeah, okay. The pump-up sprayers, you know, the tank that you pump and pump and pump with a little tip on it, a little bitty tip that you turn upside down, and it sprays along the edges. So that's what you can do if you want to get close to the house, but keep it right low to the ground. And you can experiment a little, but I just keep it back like 2 feet away. The furthest drop 2 feet away from the house, because this stain's nasty. It's terrible. I've tried to scrub it out and can't get it out. But that stuff brings your lawn to life. It fills the soil with all kinds of stuff that's great for soil. The microbial life in your soil springs up like mad. You go to like from, you know, a few hundred nematodes and bacteria, beneficial nematodes, per square inch to millions of them per square inch. So your lawn just explodes with health. Now, if you want to go to Lawn Academy and buy like a 5-gallon can that costs $120 and it costs a lot to ship, if you don't mind, that will last you several years. If you don't mind doing that, they have on their store page, they have humeric acid or humic acid, whichever you want to call it, with aspirin in it. Now, aspirin really helps your soil and your garden plants and you know your flowers and your vegetables, because they have a substance in themselves that they release when they're injured, and it's a lot like aspirin, and it's close enough that if you put aspirin spray, a chemical containing aspirin on your yard, that aspirin that activates the immune system of the plant, and it releases all these compounds to keep the plant healthy and keep it from harm. So that's what happens if you put aspirin in it. So if you want to, there's that company, and they've got that little extra in it. And they always use that little extra, because I'll tell you about another product of theirs in a minute. Because the number 2 thing you need is calcium. The thing that plants need second to nitrogen is calcium. There's not that much calcium in your soil. So if you add it, your soil is going to just, your lawn is just going to go boom. The humic acid and that together, and your soil, well, let's see. I mowed my grass last week, and I had put all this stuff on before already, and then I put on fertilizer. By the way, you do put on good fertilizer after the humic acid, like for something with iron and trace elements in it too, because your lawn needs those. So I did put on a fertilizer with iron and trace elements, and I put the fertilizer on, and the grass started growing up. I mowed it. It wasn't even yet. I put my mower on the highest setting, because that cuts it at about 3 inches. And I've recently learned that it should be a 1/2 inch to 1 inch shorter for bluegrass, so I guess I'm going to have to set it down. But anyway, it wasn't it wasn't flat yet because it hadn't grown up enough. So then the next week, a week later, I cut it, and I cut 5 inches off that grass. just went boom in 1 week. It's amazing, and it's the greenest grass and the healthiest grass in the neighborhood. It's got, like I say, it's still got a lot of dandelions in it, and I'm going to have to get somebody commercially to do that because I've been fighting dandelions. It hasn't been working. Been giving them calcium and loosening the soil, and they're not going away. So anyway, so you need calcium. Now, you might find calcium at one of the nurseries around or somewhere, but it's hard to find. And I'll tell you, I found the best the best calcium. I can't tell you the name of it, but Lawn Academy sells that also. And that's not just immediate release calcium. It's got chelated calcium in it also. So it's bound up and it releases slowly from the chelating agent. So that's really worth buying from Lawn Academy, and it's expensive. You know, I bought a gallon that cost like $25, and I had to pay like $20 for shipping on it. But most products like that, if you buy them in a store, they cost you like $45 or $50 anyway for a gallon. So I figured it was worth it, and it really is worth it for the help that it makes to your plants. And you can also get from Amazon, you can, for your garden plants, you can get a little container, a little bitty one, a pint or so that you dilute and you put on your garden plants. It's got a lot of rare minerals in it that help with the plants. Okay, so we got the calcium, and now for number 3. Number 3 is aerating your lawn. You know how they go around with the tractor and they pull this thing behind it, and it digs up all these little pellets in your yard about this big, little dirt pellets that are a total pain in the butt. Well, you know what? It's better if you do it yourself. You can buy soil treatments online. You can buy them at Amazon. Solutions that loosen your soil. And you know what they are? Soap. Surface active agent. It's something lauryl sulfate. I don't think it's sodium lauryl sulfate, which is in the soap you use in your house. It's like potassium lauryl sulfate or something. I can't remember. But anyway, it's soap. And soap is a surface active agent. It breaks things up. So it gets into those big dirt clods in there, and it breaks them up. So you spray that on your lawn a couple times a year, and that helps to make your soil better. The loose soil makes it easier for the grass to get its roots in there. And another very necessary thing to do is put in a fall fertilizer treatment, because it helps your grass to grow roots. That's what it's all about. So it's designed to cause rooting. It makes those roots grow and get deeper. And the deeper your roots are, the more they resist disease, the more they resist drought, the less often you have to water them, because those roots way down there will trap the water there. And it's well below the surface, so it evaporates very slowly. Tall fescue grass is great for doing that. If it's mixed in with other grasses, it brings the water up to where other grasses can get to it. But anyway, if you do those things, you can make a miracle out of your once crappy yard. This yard needed some work, but my gosh, as soon as I started using the calcium and the humic acid, oh man, it just looks like when you cut it after mowing, it looks like a fairway at a gazillion-dollar golf course. So yeah, it really works. It's not all that expensive, And so you can turn your crappy lawn into a good lawn. The most important thing is either a massive sprinkler that covers your whole front or backyard in one move, or have a sprinkler system installed. That's the best way to have a good lawn. When I lived in Washington, all the grasses were cool weather, and they all died in the middle of the summer, except those people that had sprinkler systems, and their grass looked fine. But everybody else had dead grass by July. So anyway, sprinkler systems are wonderful. If you can afford it, do it. Forget that snowmobile. Put in a sprinkler system. You can rent a snowmobile. All right, well, that's it for how to grow a good lawn. And good luck to you. A beautiful lawn is a lovely thing to have. All right, goodbye.